Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Alessandrini. I'm joined by my co-host, Tom O'Gorman. Tom, how's it going?
I'm good. You forgot a part. You forgot to say I'm your host and Lizard Brain's inaugural GT 4-hour winner,
Let's
DJ
go.
Alessandrini.
It was actually a pretty heated race for the first half of it.
Guys, we hosted our first sim race. It was a resounding success, I think. And
Yeah,
it wasn't rigged, and DJ still won.
it was not rigged. It was not rigged. I did practice a lot for it though. My VRS, which is the data software that I use to like keep track of my laps and then do the coaching. It said I did 16 hours of laps or 14, 16 or 14. I don't
Holy
remember.
cow.
Oh, in just that car, I did hours of other laps in other cars for coaching for other people. So
That might be a lot. I mean, that is a lot, but that might be too much.
I, I felt this like inherent need. Like I was like, I can't lose our own event. Like I felt like this, like I needed to win it. Like it wasn't an option. So then when Olivier Piatek or whatever that guy's name was like kind of driving away from me a little bit, I was like, oh no.
I'm gonna lose.
I
I
the
gotta say, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna get nerdy, but if you have something not nerdy, then go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is if you respect or if you expect me to do the same when the roles reverse, and eventually someday we have an event where I'm competing and you're behind the scenes, I will not be working that hard.
What?
Especially not if it's sim anyway.
Yeah, yeah. um, yeah. So
What were you going to get nerdy about?
I was gonna say I built the car setup in hot weather, and then the weather that launched in the sim was very cool. So my car was a little pushy, so I think that was costing me a little bit of time. I think that might have been like the difference there, between me and Livier. Uh, but as it got hotter, uh, I there they had a teammate that was also like 8,500 I rating, but as it got hotter, it looked like they were having a harder time keeping the car under them, and my car was like coming alive. And then they got murdered by somebody whose wheel disconnected. So that was all for naught. But
Yeah, that sucked. So I commentated the race. If you missed it, we did a 4-hour sim race this past weekend. It was all live streamed by Kyle Heyer on Sim TV. We can maybe link the stream in the description.
yeah, sure, if I
But
remember.
it ended up being, as far as a sim race goes, especially a sim race that was like not that serious. It was so clean and well done, I think. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
the first couple laps, I was supposed to be scrutineering if there were incidents, and we just launched into the broadcast. We were commentating, and like 2 laps in, I was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be watching for incidents," and I just completely forgot. So it was ultimately like it was a very entertaining race for us to watch. It never got boring in 4 hours. Your guys' battle up until the other car getting crashed out, which that's what I was gonna say. I feel like the expectation is there's always like a big one in a sim
That was
race.
the big one. Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was the big one. He took out the person that you were most directly competing with, the people. But yeah, I mean, all through the field, we had good battles and like a good battle all the way down to the last lap for third, I think, or last 2 laps. So we will definitely be doing that again soon.
Yes, we're already planning. It's I mean, we're thinking it's going to be Sebring, and then we're going to throw a couple extra cars in or classes into the mix just to try to keep it because Sebring has really good like multi-class interaction. Uh,
Yeah, and we're running out of time to do it before like race season starts. So that's why we're thinking do it again sooner.
yeah,
And then, maybe spread them out after that.
yeah. So and then yeah, like maybe we have like one in the middle of the summer if we like find a weekend where it's like I don't know, there's not really any events that like our crowd like is going to this weekend or something like that, and we'll keep our ear to like the Discord, which has been bumping lately. There's been so much activity in it.
Yeah, we had 45 teams enter, and I think only 17 of those teams had single drivers. That means there was at least like 90 to 100 drivers in the race.
Yeah,
No, not quite. No, 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 more like 70 to 90 drivers in the race.
it was probably like
And that
90ish, 90
yeah,
drivers because there was a couple teams with like 3 people on it, and so it all kind of like equals out. But we had like 150 people join the Discord since we announced the
yeah.
the sim race, and I'm gonna have to like I've already like been scheming in the background like how I'm gonna like split up and organize the Discord so it doesn't seem like it's impossible to like follow a chat if like that's the particular chat that you're like really into. I noticed there's like a Carlton McCarr guy conversation going on in the sim racing channel. I thought I was gonna have to ban a bunch of people, but Carlton told me no. So I think Carlton will have his own channel at some point, which is not something I ever thought would happen for the Lizard Brains podcast, having car people. But this is where we're at, Tom. We're like mainstream at this point. So
We were already in the top 100 podcasts of the year last year, so we can only go up from here.
yeah, and
Or we got to keep going from here.
I have a scheme that maybe we'll implement at some point where we'll probably be top 10, but I don't know if Tom wants to do that with me.
I've never heard of this scheme, but I'm down.
The scheme is we come out with an episode every day and it's like 15 minutes long of like a podcast question. And then we get
Sure.
cuz that gets us way more downloads. That's how they measure on those top 10 lists. If if people wake up and just listen to like a podcast question get answered and we get like the normal amount of downloads on that, we'll be like top 10. Like easy.
All right.
You're down?
Do it, guys. So this is the end of this episode. We'll have another one tomorrow.
Wait, we're only 6 minutes in, Tom. We got to go for 10 more minutes.
Oh, okay. What else? What else? We got 10 more minutes. No,
Oh man,
kidding.
now that the time is ticking, it's getting a little I'm a little nervous.
I uh I was gonna ask if there was anything from the race this weekend that felt like it was applicable to what we talk about on this podcast, other than hey, we had a race and it was fun.
Yeah, there was a couple things where so uh yeah, so I did make that heart rate data channel that I was talking about in some previous
Oh
episodes.
yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and
I haven't been keeping up with that.
you'll see if you go to that channel, you'll see I kept track of my heart rate for the 4.5 hours that I was driving during that race because there was like warm up and then quali and then the race. So I was on for like 4 hours and like 39 minutes or whatever is what it came down to. So my heart rate was elevated. It peaked during quali at like 180, or maybe 160. I don't entirely remember, but my average was 138 over the course of the 4.5 hours. Um, and there was specific instances in the race where, and I was being spotted by Jake Martin, who's in the chat. What's up, Jake? And I Jake can attest to this. Every once in a while, I would have to be like, "Oh crap, I gotta refocus." Like I would just drive down the back straight because I'm doing a race all by myself for 4 hours. I'd be driving down the back straight, and I would get to 10A and realize that I don't remember driving down the back straight. Like I just like zoned out for like the entire back straight because like your brain just starts doing weird stuff after like 3 hours.
Yep.
Um, so that and I use that, and this is something we've talked about on the podcast too, is everyone's gonna lose focus when they're driving. It's just recognizing when you lose focus and then like doubling down on like your visual markers and stuff like that. So I found myself resorting, I like heard my own voice like saying that on the podcast. Um, I found myself like doing that, like, okay, all right, I'm losing focus. I gotta like double down on my just like looking at the things I need to look at for the next couple laps, and then I would be back into it. What's interesting is if you look at the heart rate data, you can see little dips. And I think that's when I was like spacing on the back straight. And then I would refocus up and you'd see the heart rate like ramp back up because I'm like re-engaging with the thing that I'm doing. And when I'm engaged, my heart rate's up. And you can see me kind of like flattening and like the heart rate will go down, and then it will do like a dip. And I think that's like I would space out like the brain like needed a break and it didn't let me know that it was taking one. It just like took a break, right? And conveniently, it kept using the back straight. Um, but it was interesting seeing that that like my heart rate was like tied to my focus. It seemed like I know I don't have like direct correlative data or whatever, but I would
Well,
say
you could go back to the stream and look at a rough time of day to see if those lulls were either where you were like not under pressure or not having to deliver or like actually losing focus because you were,
well
going down the back straight.
you can definitely see my heart rate like take a little tick down once P2 was murdered. Because then
Yeah.
I wasn't under immediate pressure of like uh having to perform. And I was actually, excuse me, I was actually when P2 did get murdered, because Road Atlanta is a very easy track to just like drop a half a wheel off and then you just go die, right? Like it's a very easy track to do that. So being precise when not feeling completely under pressure, I realized just from when I was practicing that I was gonna have to really be on top of my focus, and if I felt like I was losing focus at any point, then I would have to redouble down. Um, so it was a really cool exercise in that. My watch is probably a little optimistic with my calories burned, uh, but it said I burned 2,700 calories in that race, which is kind of wild.
That is crazy. I wonder, do you know if your thing accounts for just like if you were to be on the couch versus, or is that factored in at all?
So I pick an other workout where it's just kind of, from what I understand, it's just measuring like cardiovascular, like
Got it.
like activity, and it just assumes like if your heart's this, then you're working this hard.
Got it. So yeah, it's a rough estimate.
Yeah, it's a
But still,
very
I mean,
rough
I wouldn't
estimate.
be totally surprised at all if you had burned a bunch of calories in 4 hours sim
I was
racing.
starving after, like, absolutely starving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but the event went really well. I watched the whole broadcast later that night, so 8 hours of my Saturday was held up with, and even more than that because I was driving for an hour before the race started. Uh but yeah, 9 hours of my Saturday was, held up with, that event, and I feel like that's probably most people who also participated in the event, so it's kinda cool to think that, like, okay, we put this thing together, we organized it, we got it all together, we, like, rallied the troops to be like, "Come and do our thing," and then enough people came, went, and did the thing, and if you think about, I doubt, I doubt everyone had the same experience as me, but, like, if you think about the amount of time like through everyone that was spent doing the thing that we organized, that's actually a pretty cool feeling.
It is. Yeah. That's I mean, it's very similar to the first time we put on track days in real life that I like ASM did or something. And I'm looking at the drivers meeting of 80 people. I'm like, I just gave this place money and they let me do this. And then
Yeah,
all you
yeah.
80 people came. That's so cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Plus putting on a sim race is way cheaper. I mean,
Yeah.
Kyle's valuable, but he's not quite full racetrack valuable yet.
No, he's not
He's not $20,000 for a day valuable
no,
yet.
not yet, not yet. To put a yet at
Yet.
the end of that, yeah.
We put a big all caps YET at the end of that one.
Yeah. But yeah,
I would
the stream was excellent, Tom, you did a good job. I know you were kinda like kicking yourself, but honestly, it seemed completely fine and perfectly good.
The only reason I was a little like frustrated or not frustrated is obviously Kyle and I used to live together. And then when I was in the sim racing room with him, I had a flow. And then I honestly didn't do a lot of sim commentary since then. So that would have been maybe 2.5 years ago. And the only difference in real life commentary versus like the runoffs versus the sim racing, at the runoffs, we have exactly what you see when you watch the broadcast to us available to us only. And if I want, I can have live timing up and I can have other screens up and I can be doing as much as I want. But you guys are always blown away when I'm like in the YouTube chat commentating and like chatting and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's literally only 2 things to do. In the sim race, it's like I have Kyle's stream up, I have my game up, I can follow whatever cars I want on my own game. I'm following what Kyle's broadcasting. I'm trying to keep track of the YouTube chat. I'm supposed to steward the race somehow. I forgot to do that entirely. So it's just like I was down about being not down, like I had a blast, but I was like, man, I was clunky as hell just trying to figure. There was a time where I was commentating on corners that were like 30 seconds in the past because I was looking at the wrong screen or the wrong car or
Yeah.
something. I'm sure Kyle's going,
That
like,
did
what the
happen
hell is he
once.
talking about?
That did happen
Yeah.
once, and it's like,
Do you hear
man,
me correct you hear me correct myself?
yeah, well, no, I it was like, Kyle was trying to, like, look at another battle, and you were still talking about the one, like, it was just on, and,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Damn, Tom is really into this battle." He totally ignored Kyle trying to switch to this other thing. He's like, "No, this is what we're paying attention to."
Because I was watching my own game instead of his game.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
so dumb, but it's okay. We had a good time, and obviously, 4 hours is a lot of time to fill, and it never lagged in the commentary. I will say from our global view, it was really weird having a 4-hour race in the sim. I talked about it a little on the broadcast, but it's cool to have that race experience that most people don't get in sim racing because most people log into the official races, which are maybe 20 to let's say 15 minutes to up to an hour. That's
Yep.
like kind of the window of time that you usually do a race. We had 17 people do the 4 hours solo, and we had a bunch of teams with 2 drivers and only a couple with 3. So that means people were pushing themselves for longer stints and longer drive times than they usually do in this game, which you could totally see the concentration
Fatigue
curve, especially towards the end of the
toward the
race,
end, yeah.
especially right when all the second drivers got in for the first couple laps. And then the last part was just like after 4 hours of the same field, the same 45 teams spreading out, there was one battle towards the end where you had second place, 6th, 7th, 8th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and like 22nd and 30 something, all in the same like straightaway. So there's 8 cars in that battle that are all on 4 different laps from each other.
Yeah,
None of
dude.
them are really battling except for like 2 of them are battling and 2 of them are battling, and they're not next to each other. It's like, what do you do at that point? I don't even know that I've ever been in that scenario except for like Champ Car, but you don't know who you're racing. In iRacing, you can see.
You see the
And it was a
context
really
of
like
what's happening, yeah.
and it was a really weird dynamic to even be like, how would I advise these people to manage this? I don't know. I would like if I was 22nd, but I'm basically as fast as everybody, like I wouldn't let them by, I don't think,
So
until they made it like apparent that they have to get by.
yeah, so
Did you ever run into that?
no, so I thought people were honestly, and I hope this doesn't come to bite me in the next race, but I thought people were too uh they were too nice about the blue flags. Like they would literally they would be in a race, their own race. They're like racing for like 30th, and like here come the leaders rolling through, and
Yeah.
31st who's fighting for 30th would like jump out of the way and park it and let us by, and then the other car would jump out of the way and park it and let us by. It's like, you guys just interrupted like, you guys are having your own race, like, it's just when you're driving around by yourself, you just like, "Okay, I'm not gonna, like, fight you into the corner, like, I'm gonna, like, let you by, and then because that's gonna be faster for both of us," right? So, there's, like,
Right.
a balance in there that, like, needs to happen, something and the thing is, like, I find it hard to come up with an explanation of, like, how much do you give up on your own lap to lubricate a pass of like a lead lap car? I don't know, because there is a lot of nuance to that. So,
There
try,
is.
yeah, so trying to explain that, especially like because I'm trying to think of how to explain it in Discord on like written text or like in a driver's meeting. Um, I I I mean, I benefited from people's kindness of just literally just jumping completely out of the way, but I felt
Right.
bad when I'm like, "Oh, yeah, look at this, like, 17th having a really great fight," and then all of a sudden now they're like 2 seconds back from that fight they were having, and it's like, "Well, crap," like, that fight might never come back depending on how these, like, next couple laps go for those 2 drivers, right?
Yeah. I noticed that was pretty prevalent towards the end of the race, but I think my best advice for that would just be if you intend to let somebody by, doing it as early as possible on the easiest straightaway where you can possibly do it is the way to go. Like, don't do it at the exit of the corner, obviously. But a lot of people, what I see is they'll wait until the very end of the straightaway, and then
Yes.
they'll either try to make it easy into the next corner, or they'll try to make it easy like at the break point, which both of those are so much higher risk than if you were to literally come off Road Atlanta turn 7, you get up over the crest of that first little hill, and then you just roll off to like 70, 80% throttle. Okay, 40% throttle. That
Yeah.
car's gonna get by you so much easier. They're gonna see it coming way slower. They're gonna know what's going on, and then you're not in this high risk scenario.
Yeah, the one incident I had from the race is because somebody was trying to let me by, like, on the entry of the corner, so I was going to file in behind them, and then they just choked up, and the car was all sorts of out of whack, and I ended up, tagging somebody a little bit at the apex. Sorry, Tim. And, I I felt so bad
Thanks. He's never
about it.
coming back to one of our events
Yeah, I
now.
know.
Ugh.
There was let me finish this thought, and then I have, kind of an entertaining thought after that. But, anytime it was dangerous is when somebody was letting me by on, like, the exact, like, entry of the corners. Like, right when we're about to turn in, they would just park it and just expect me to know that they're letting me like, and now it feels like I'm dive bombing them, right? So just, like, yeah, the one takeaway, and it didn't happen that often, the one, like, traffic takeaway would be the earlier you can just file in, like, you come out corner exit, and then you roll off and you just make it really, really obvious what's happening, and then you get to jump in the draft. You lose hardly any time.
Yep. You know what's wild?
What?
That's just novice track day etiquette. Give your point by the moment you get on the straightaway. Make it happen early.
Yeah, it is. It's not
It's
any different than that.
race car drivers forget the basic stuff so often.
Yeah, you're right. That is but like it's literally faster for like the pass to happen sooner. So um
Yeah.
so the entertaining thing that I was thinking of is so when Olivier was when he was pulling away from me, he was being a little bit of a savage through traffic, and I was like, I'm just not willing to like almost crash everyone that I'm passing because I am not losing a podcast listener over this race. Not even one. I will not lose a single listener because I'm a dick through traffic. I will not do it.
You're gonna meet somebody at like a trade show in a year. Like, I used to listen to your podcast, but then you wrecked me in a sim race. You're
Then
like, no.
you ran me off the road or you poked your nose and I crashed.
Yeah, does January 3rd, 2025 mean anything to you?
It was January 4th, but
Road Atlanta, turn 7. I'm kidding.
you know what? There's Ed, who we keep meaning to have on the podcast, Ed CZ. He'll still bring up that I yelled at him over the microphone on iRacing in our first interaction ever with each other. So people remember.
They do. I'm sure there are people I rub the wrong way all the time in COVID era sim racing.
It just happens.
We couldn't help it. Yeah. I've been sim racing a lot recently,
You
actually.
have. Tom's had a
But
resurgence on iRacing. Look, guys, I knew this would happen. Look,
mm,
this was all planned. I was just like, I'm a little pup master over here, just pulling the strings. And I was like, Tom, oh no, we need you to commentate the race. Oh, can you also steward? Oh, Tom, you're gonna have to install iRacing. Next thing you know, Tom's racing iRacing with us.
so you're not gonna like what I say next. I played iRacing 3 times since I downloaded it. I did one of the practice races for our event, and I won. I think. No, I got second. You won. I got second. I was very proud of that. And then I played 2 other times. I got crashed out both times. So I still play iRacing still, but I've been playing a ton of Assetto Corsa, and I think it's really fun because I'm rediscovering why I loved the sim racing stuff back in the day, like before I even was able to drive cars.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like a little Jimmy Broadbent moment happening here, but that like opportunity to drive all these cars and these tracks that you'll never get to drive or see or even exist anymore, like, I was so obsessed with that when we were back in the, like, the Toca race driver days or even, like, Gran Turismo 2, but then when I first found R Factor and GTR 2, sorry, these are all, like, sim sim throwbacks for people, but these are all simulators that, I've
Pull up a
begged my
chair,
parents
kids.
to, like.
Pull up a chair, kids. We got Sim Grandpa on the mic right now.
Yeah. This is way pre iRacing, like, we're talking, like, early 2000s, but when I learned that those games, because they're kinda open source and people who understand how to make 3D models and make how programming and stuff, they can modify the games and add cars to them if they know what to do. So at this point, there's 30 years of sim racing modifications for different games, and all you have to do is like port them from one game to the next. I'm sure it's so much more complicated than that. But dude, basically what that means is I have cars, I have like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and in 2000s touring cars, GT cars, prototype cars, open wheel cars, all in Assetto Corsa on all these tracks that I basically got kind of interested in downloading some of them. I forget how this happened, but I just started downloading tracks. I'm like, I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that.
Oh, so you
And I'm
get to
just kind of
learn
running through
all
the
these new
list.
tracks.
Exactly. I don't even know if these are real or not, but I'm learning them and I'm just kind of playing against the AI or I'm doing it by myself. But there's like specifically today I was playing the 1975 Formula 1 season. They modded all those cars into the game. They drive really really nice. And I found this track. Have you ever heard of the track in Spain? It's a street circuit called Montjuic.
Nope.
Okay, it's like Spain's Monaco, except instead of being like Monaco where it's like tight and tiny,
Yeah.
it's like this massive ring road around this park on the top of a hill in Barcelona. And I didn't know that they had Formula 1 races like that, but they did from like 1960s into the no, 50s into the 70s. And so I'm playing the 1975 race and I'm like this track looks crazy. Like I'm driving it and okay, so turn 1 is this like massive, you come onto the front straight from this massive S that's flat out. You're doing like 150, 160 onto the front straight. You climb this hill that kind of carves to the left. You do a jump into the braking zone into a hairpin. And these idiots used to be driving these Formula 1 cars doing that for real
These
all the way up
idiots.
until I know, until 1975 somebody crashed and they cleared the fence and crashed into the audience and they canceled the race halfway through cuz people died. But this track I've never even heard of before and now I'm like driving a simulated version of the 70s cars that raced in it and like
That's
just
pretty
like having
legit.
the best time.
That
It's
sounds
pretty fun.
that sounds fun, yeah.
But that engages my mind so much more than grinding out the same lap of the same car 7 days a week to try to like prepare. I'm like doing 20 to 30 minutes on each car on each track and then I'll pick the next thing and then it's like 1988 Australian touring cars, and then it's 1965, you know, FIA touring cars, and then it's you just jump all over the place, and it keeps my brain really engaged, but in a way that is so different than what we get to play online with each other at this point. So I don't know if that inspires anybody to like look into the Assetto Corsa mods. They're super easy to install, and I've just been having like a ball and a half with them. They're so fun.
Yeah, if you want more information on that, like just jump into the Discord. There's there's a couple things that you'll need to download, and that will all be super easy. But if you jump in Discord, we have an entire community here that can like help you figure that out, or maybe even Tom will help you get going because it's near and dear to his heart. But yeah, Discord. The link is in the description. But
Then we can play Assetto Corsa. I don't know if this is I mean, this is a bad time for it too. I don't know if we would have the audience to like try to get people to play it, either for like a time trial thing or if I figured out how to host it. But it would make me so happy to not have to race AI in some of these cars.
I
Because the AI are not trained on all these tracks. So sometimes you download this track and it's so cool, and then the AI don't know how to drive it, and you just have to drive by yourself.
Tom, at somebody, yeah, yeah. Look, Raul said I can host. I was gonna say, I'm sure somebody in our Discord can host it for us. Like
Sure.
we don't have to figure it out. There's people that are already here that know how to do it. Like we just have to say that we want to do it, and then it will happen.
Well, hey, I said it. Hey, I
So
want to play Assetto Corsa with my friends.
is that gonna be the next game night? Because I was kind of planning on Mario Kart to be the next game night. Have you played any Mario Kart?
No, mine'll be it'll be informal. I've played a little Mario Kart. I'm so bad at it.
Did you play
I
online
got to
at all?
figure out a cart. A what?
Did you play online at all?
No, not online. I was losing to AI. I didn't want to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
online.
yeah, yeah. That's fine. Go online. You'll learn. They'll teach you.
I can't even keep the cart on the track because I don't understand the drifting and why I don't just like I want to carve the corner and the drifting makes you like slide off the edge.
You have to pick an inside drift motorcycle. I'll teach you all about it, Tom.
So, okay, an inside drift motorcycle. If I'm
There's
ever going over data with somebody and they whip out inside drift,
so there's in Mario
now I'll
Kart.
know what they're talking
All right,
about.
we're about to lose both of our dads here. So in Mario Kart,
No, I know what you mean. It means it like tightens up instead of slides.
yeah. So like there's outside drift and inside drift, and inside drift, like as you start the drift, it like pivots in, and then outside drift, as you start the drift, it pivots out and then carves. So it's like it pivots in and then carves, or pivots out and then carves.
Well, I seem to slide off the track no matter what. So I'm not that motivated by Mario Kart, but I am motivated by Assetto Corsa. Either way, I will play, but I think it'll be just informal. I kind of think the problem with Assetto Corsa and all these older games were like this too, especially when you start to adventure into the mods and stuff. Is everybody has to have the same files, everybody has to have everything the same to play online. So it's so much more complicated, even just to get everybody in the game. Uh, but I'll work on it.
What
I would like to do that.
Raul, answer in the chat if you can. What like how beefy of a computer do I need to host a my own Assetto Corsa lobby? Because I have like extra computer stuff laying around to the point where I think I could just make another computer. It won't be a very good computer, but if it just has to keep track of like network whatever, then it should be fine. Does it need a graphics card, or like can it just be a like a moderately fine CPU and just host the server? Yeah, network and CPU. I think I can just have a Lizard Brains like Assetto Corsa server like running at all times. So like members of the podcast can like jump in and like do laps.
Huh. That would be awesome.
I'll need Raul's help to set it up though. Thanks, Raul. He hasn't even
Either way,
volunteered
it's been
yet.
fun to I mean, this is like what I used to do uh before. Have I ever told you stories about Race to Play?
No, is that a game?
No, it was a website. I don't even know what to call it. It was like a web community where you could register to race simulators against all the other members of the website. So it would use like R Factor or GTR2 or insert whatever game. And you had to register for the race. You had to have a real name under your account. You had to have a profile filled out. And when you registered, it would give you the information how to join. and it would keep championship points, and it was all sanctioned by it was actually sanctioned by NASA, I think, like informally. But there were organizers and administrators and event race stewards and stuff in the races. It was like very well put together, all pre iRacing. So this is a lot of what I did from like I don't know, let's say 2004 5 to like 2010.
So this
Uh,
is this is where like a website where if somebody, oh, excuse me, I keep coughing randomly. So this is like a website. If somebody wanted to host a league, they would do it on this website, and people on the website would be like, "Ooh, I want to participate in that."
it was more like an online sanctioning body. It was more like if imagine SCCA was a website, and in order to race the events, you had to sign into SCCA.com, and then it like told you how to do it. That makes
Would
sense?
would it like tell you the password and like the servers to join to race with other people?
Yep. Yep. And it would have links. It would have links to the cars and tracks you needed if they were mods. And it was like I actually am still connected on social media to some people I used to race against back in those days. And I've met some of those people now and worked with some of those people now. So that's really cool. But yeah, this is what it used to feel like back then to just like have all these cool things accessible to you in the sim, and kind of the world was your oyster for whatever you created. Instead of I feel like the box of iRacing is so tight relative to that. That's maybe part of the reason that I never like loved iRacing. I don't know.
I just love the
I think
competition.
yeah, that's the other thing. I think we're opposite because I don't really. I would love to have some competition or some people to play with,
Yeah.
but like I've had some good races with the AI. I know that sounds stupid. I've had some good entertainment for myself.
Tom,
Like
I'm not
it's
gonna
fun
judge.
enough.
I'm not gonna yuck your yum.
You're like, oh, you beat the AI. Good for
Oh,
you.
good
Pat
job,
me on the
Tom
head.
McCormin.
Yeah,
I beat Mario the other day too. Those Koopas are real tough.
yeah. Pinch my cheeks.
No, I've seen you like streaming in Discord with like you were doing like muscle cars on Caldwell Park, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was driving a 1968 Mercury Cougar Trans Am car. Like, why would I do that? I don't know, but I did it and it was kind of fun.
It looked
It's a
fun.
little annoying. That car was kind of bad.
Oh well from the outside it looked fun. I was thinking, man, maybe I should fire up a set of course. I haven't since I got my new monitor, I haven't fired up a set of core saddles, so I
Well,
should do that.
maybe we'll figure out how to host this and get it going.
Yeah,
I think
let's.
you would have fun in some of it. I think it seems more like a hot lap challenge or like a goofy game night thing than like it would never be a league thing or a
No,
serious thing.
but
It's just not it's not strength that's strong enough for that.
the cool thing about a set of courses, you can like rapid fire races. Like, cause the server will
Yeah.
just keep looping. So like we could just have a game night where it's like, yeah, we're just doing races on whatever track and with all these different cars. And then if we wanted to like switch it up, then we just take the server down, switch it up, throw it back up, and then now we're all racing that for like, 5 or 6 races in a row.
Yeah.
It would be relatively quick. Especially for Oles doing it, because it sounds like he knows what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it just Forzifies it a little bit. Like Forza recycles the races fat or used to anyway.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
how
This
Forza
has been
works
getting
now.
me through my I've been in a little slump ever since PRI because I missed it. And usually I finish the year off PRI and then I get the motivation of everything that happened at PRI to like fuel the next month and a half or 2 months. And then in the last couple of years I've been going to Daytona. And this year I don't have either of those things. So I've been like I don't even know what I want for motorsports. Like where am I going? What am I doing? At least this is keeping me like focused on a
Driving.
level of driving, a
Yeah.
level of interest in it. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. I've had like a renewed focus on the podcast and what is Lizard Brains as like the brand. Ever since that discussion where you said I was your Batman, and I was like, oh shit, that's a lot of pressure to like figure out how to make this thing work. No, but seriously, so it like, and we haven't talked about this at all. So like now we're having this conversation on the podcast, but uh, it made me think like, okay, well, if like what can this turn into is kind of what I'm thinking. And us hosting that sim event, like it kind of expanded the audience of the podcast. Um, and to me, the way where I see this going is that the podcast is cool. It's just an insight into to me and Tom, and we talk about driving stuff and whatever. But to me, Lizard Brains eventually is just a community that is it just like it adds value. The community itself adds value into motorsports and racing and competition, uh, like as the whole thing altogether. Um, so trying to build up that community as much as possible, I think, is kind of where my brain's at with the podcast and with the Discord and everything that's involving in it. So I've been just kind of thinking about like how do we do that as much as possible, in terms of like the relevant things that our audience would find entertaining or engaging, or they would want to be a part of. So that event, us throwing that event, kind of opened my eyes to like the things that we should be doing to really grow this thing that we're building.
Yeah, I think that kind of ties in. I love that. I agree with it. I think it to me ties back to like part of the learning curve for becoming better at something is the company you keep.
Yeah,
So in the same way that you wanted to come up and talk to me the first time that we like really hit it off because you're like, I don't want to know him. Like he's doing the stuff I want to do. I want to know him. That feeds into your learning process. It feeds into your attitude towards things. It feeds into the community around you. And if it's a community of like-minded people who all want that, you're inevitably going to be better for it.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
So I think like I'm super proud of the number of people who share their weekend experiences or have joined the sim race or whatever throughout this entire like experience of doing the podcast because I watch the people like pushing themselves where maybe if they were keeping different company, they wouldn't be. You
Yeah,
never know.
100%. So like it is like the most dopamine hit when somebody comes up and tells me a way that the podcast or a conversation that me and Tom had um, has helped them in some way in their competition or their driving or their motorsports journey or whatever they're doing, right? I think like a whole nother level of that is hearing about the same thing, but from the community that we built. Like they got that help through the community. Like they met that person in the Lizard Brains community, and that helped them achieve their motorsports goals or dreams or aspirations or something along those lines. Um, not just me, not just Tom and I. Like we almost like we help. Uh, I'm drawing a blank on the word, but we
Facilitate.
yeah, facilitate like a culture and like a group to help to actually have a impact on motorsports, which is both something that we both we desperately love motorsports, and that's why we're so passionate about it. So if and we can't do it alone. So if we build up a community that is super helpful to people, and it collects into a large amount of people, then now we're helpful to even more people, and in just the result of that, we help motorsports because motorsports really is not that
Needs
big.
help.
It's
Oh,
not that big either. No, I
I'm
was
kidding.
gonna say it needs help. Jesus Christ, but it's not that big. There's really not that many people in motorsports. Um, so even if it's just like our little corner of the internet, uh, like we actually have, like we as I'm not saying me and Tom, I'm saying me, Tom, everyone listening, everyone in the Discord, like we all have impact on what motorsports is right now and what it will be.
Yep. As long as we don't become somehow the group when someone hears like, "Oh, you're a lizard brain person." Oh god.
Oh, not one of them.
Yeah, not one of those people.
I hope that doesn't happen. If
No,
that
that
does
would be
happen,
funny.
then we'll take the feedback and try to learn from it. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm just excited about the podcast right now. Everyone, can you tell?
I love that. Well, we didn't plan anything to talk about today because we haven't been doing any real racing. So we do have a lot of questions still queued up. Should we
We
try to
were
hit some of those bigger ones?
we were supposed to, or at least we were thinking about it, and then the United States got hit by a blizzard that went from like literally the whole like east side of the states is like under snow.
Yeah, we were gonna go to. Well, I had not decided to go, but we were thinking about going to Barber this weekend. They just canceled it for freezing rain and ice warnings, which is crazy. I saw some videos from like Dallas and from Kansas City driving. That oh my god.
What you're saying? It's bad?
It's bad, but also just scary when you see cars just like having no control on ice.
Well, a lot
Ooh,
of those cars are their tires are bald because that's fine because they live in the south, or they're like summer tires, and then all of a sudden there's ice and snow on the road, and then it's a big issue, right?
right.
So, and they also don't have
So
like
yeah,
stockpiles of salt everywhere, so it's a little different.
we still got to put helmets on our head before the end of the month. We gotta somehow.
Yes. I think there's something happening at CMP at some point later this month.
In January, I heard about it something early March, but we'll keep an eye out for it.
Early March. There's got to be something, or maybe maybe there's like a snow cross event up at Pit Race or something. Something. We got to go drive something.
Yep.
Even if it's a Chevy Bolt on snow tires. I got to drive something. I'm dying.
I miss living in Wisconsin where I mean it wouldn't have quite happened by this point, but we could just go to the lake on a Tuesday or Wednesday when it was frozen and just drive around on the lake for however long we wanted. It's not like the car's going to overheat.
I did wear a
I kind of
helmet
miss that.
yesterday, Tom, or not yesterday, the day before. I went
What'd you do in a
go-karting.
helmet?
I went go-karting.
Just by yourself?
Some coworkers went, so I went
Oh,
and
nice.
drove around. It was nice. It you know what? Uh, because when I really start lizarding into the sim racing, I almost forget what tires feel like on a surface. So I think the carts actually work well for that because like a tire on a surface is a tire on a surface. It doesn't really matter if it's, at 100 miles an hour in a go-kart. Like it's still feeling the limit of adhesion through your body, and not like in sim racing you like really feel it like with your ears, like how you hear it, right? And a little bit through the wheel, but for me, it's mostly the ears. Um, and then in real life, you still get like a little bit of ear action, but it's not nearly as much as it is in sim racing. And then the rest of it comes like through your body. So trying to keep like those things fresh. I think indoor karting like actually works for that.
I think indoor karting is one of those things if you're going to a decent track, which this I think this works for like 60 to 70% of indoor tracks. They come at you so fast that they keep a level of like hand-eye coordination and process of momentum up,
Yeah,
even if the whole track's flat out. To your point, like you're feeling a tire, you're feeling a little bit of something going on. I remember how slow the carts felt by the time I was done working at the kart track because they had gotten faster, but they felt so slow because my brain was so far ahead of what they were going to feel like.
yeah,
It's helpful for that.
yeah. So I think I'm gonna do that more this winter.
Nice. I
We were gonna answer some questions, right?
yep. I was cutting myself off from saying something I wouldn't want to say. You want
Okay.
to hit the thing?
Yeah, I'll save you, Tom.
Self-censoring.
Emails.
All right, I like this one. This is from our friend Duckies. After having done a couple of track days, time trials, and a brickload of autocross, I don't understand the HPDE crowd. Can you explain them to me? Have we answered this?
I think we've
I
had
don't think so.
conversations about it, but
We have a normal HPDE feels kind of boring to me without running data and the pressure of competition. Are folks doing them creating their own sense of pushing themselves outside of structured competition? Question mark. Also, autocross is better than track. Change my view. Whoa. All right, two conversations there.
um
We got a spicy take and an even spicier take.
I I don't really get the HPD thing either, to be honest. When I started autocrossing, and I went to uh my first time on track was uh like a track night in America, and I crashed my car. Uh and then the next time I was on track was like a YouTube channel that I followed called Speed Academy, had like an open lapping day, and I went through like 2 tanks of gas in like that single day. Um,
How much time was between those two, by the way?
oh, like 3 years,
That's what I thought, because you
three
were
and a
like
half.
invited to that YouTube thing.
Well, I was a Patreon. When I was
Right.
in
But you were
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're thinking of the thing where I went and I drove their Miata in like a time trial thing, and like there was a leaderboard and stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is different. So I was already
It
GLTC driving when I got invited to the thing to set a time.
got it. Okay. Sorry. Go
So
on.
yeah.
You were
S-
doing 2 tanks of gas.
So yeah, it was just like an open lapping day and it was fun and I was like learning a bunch and everything. But there was no competition. And that was after years of doing autocross. So I think it matters where you start out. And like we talked about earlier in this podcast, like the company that you're keeping. If you are interested in cars and the thing you start out in is competition, aka autocross, then everything your interaction with cars, the people that you're keeping around you, the company, they're all really into competition in cars.
Yeah.
I think track days as like a entry level, like you got like the novice and the instructors that are varying degrees of knowledgeable, and they're just trying to make sure that you drive your car home at the end of the day and stuff like
You mean they're
that.
just trying to get their free track time?
And they're just trying to get their free track time. Thank you, Tom. Forgot about that aspect of it. Um, I, there is no competition, and the goals are different. So, and I think a lot of the people who are the like the leaders in the paddock aren't necessarily like the competitive minded people. So if you like, there are competition people there. They're like testing and they might be coaching or something like that. But in general, those people aren't really interacting that much with like the novices, right? Because they're there with their own agenda. But at autocross, everyone's competitive, right? So those are the people that you're interacting with is because everyone at an autocross is competing. Now, hold on. There might be some people that are there just for the memes or whatever. They're not actually competing, but everyone's getting a time at least, right? So it's a competition of some sort. There's a what's the thing on Veritasium, Tom? The like a metric or immediate. There's immediate feedback.
Mhm. Yeah. For becoming an expert is what you're saying.
Yeah. So like there's in HPDE, unless you like throw a lap timer in the thing or anything like that, there's not immediate feedback. And then even when it is just HPDE and you put a lap timer in there and it's just you driving against yourself, is that immediate feedback? What feedback are you getting? Right? Like what's the quality of that feedback, right?
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, I would think of it as like I get HPDEs, but the career HPDEer is the person that's kind of an enigma to me because I have so much fun at HPDEs when it's just like the driving environment is different and the pace is different off track and like I genuinely have a lot of fun with it. But if it didn't exist, I don't think I would have latched on. Sorry, if that was all there was, I don't think I would have latched on to motorsports as much. I need the competition outlet to like know if I'm doing good, well,
Yeah.
because the competition aspect puts you on a leaderboard no matter what, if whether you like it or not. So going back to like the career HPDE or the person who finds HPDE, which is essentially just motorsports recreation, like recreational track driving. I think recreational track driving has its place for people for sure. I know people like even my dad would way rather do that than own his own race car like he used to or autocross like he used to or whatever. Just like do it times a year. That person exists. The person who turns that into I do 30 track days a year and I always put new Hoosiers on, but I've never lap time myself. That person is the enigma to me. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that
what are we doing? How do we get to this? Just this path is so bizarre
where
to
they
me. And
like
I'm sure they're still having fun too.
yeah, I'm sure they're
But
having a
because they've
blast.
never been in competition or because they didn't come up with a level of competition, they've never been put on that leaderboard. They've never learned if they're good, bad, anything else. And they eventually get to a point where when they are challenged, they don't accept it very well because they can't fathom that somebody else could be going that much faster or that somebody could be challenging them that they're not as good as they think they
But
are or they made a mistake.
that's
No,
like
no, no, it's not.
that's peak Dunning-Kruger though, because they don't know
It
what they
is.
don't know, right?
Exactly.
So I think a lot of the people, and I think these are the people that Duckies is talking about in his comment. I think that they found their comfort zone, and this is a very human thing. You like find something that you're comfortable with and you stick with it, right? And something
Yeah.
that we've always harped on the podcast is like you like play around at the limits of what your comfort zone is because that's how you get better, that's how you improve, that's how you learn, that's how you grow, right? All these things, but it is a very human nature thing to do is like to stay in your comfort zone because that's what you know and that's what's safe and that I have a good time doing this and I haven't had a bad time yet or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think like people will I think most people will stick with what's comfortable. The people who are like habitually staying in their comfort zone, I'm wondering how they even got into like doing track days and stuff on its own because that first track day is intimidating, right? Like the first time you're going on a racetrack and like that's way outside the comfort zone. So do they like did they just find comfort eventually and then just get like were they like serenaded by the comfort of this of driving a a car on a racetrack like within their own space, right? Like it is a weird enigma. I totally agree with you, Tom.
Yeah, and it like I think it really only comes up because you hit a tipping point or an intersection, I would say, of like people who want to take driving on track seriously and they're using a track day as like a non-competitive outlet to like get better somehow or just like as a test or whatever. And then you have the track day crowd that are probably a mix of like the people who do a couple a year all the way up to the people who do 20 a year. But the people who are in let's say the advanced group at that event, you're at Chin, you're at whatever, and you have like 10 people with a race car driver brain and you have like 20 people in their like career HPDE brain and you like throw them on track together. That's when it's the problem because then you're mixing like competitive motorsports and recreational motorsports in the same field. Otherwise, like that's kind of why I think track night is so valuable and so like successful because it's transparent up front. Like this is not for race car drivers or race cars or competition. This is literally like recreational outlet for driving your car, which keeps it like super super transparent at the entry. And that's obviously not for everybody, but it's good for those people who do it a couple times a year.
So I think Jake Martin actually has some good insight into the chat. By the way, we record the podcast live in the Discord. Link in the description. Anyways, um, so Jake Martin says there's a pretty big split between people who view HPDE as a step. So people who are like, I will do this and then I will go do something else, or as the end goal. And that very well could be the career HPDE people is where it's like they never saw or wanted or anything other than just having fun with their car on a racetrack. So they're not seeing the value in pushing themselves to be better or do this or anything like that. They're just happy to be there. Which Tom, on some level, I kind of envy. Just happy to be there. That kind of sounds peaceful, doesn't it?
It does. I think we come at it differently because you look at competition relative to others, and I've always looked at competition at myself.
Mhm.
So I can go to a track day and be pretty fed because I'm like
'Cause you're trying to put a lap
I'm
together.
I'm somewhat yeah, I'm self-motivated. I'm like, I am going out of my way to put a lap together, like find the space. But even if I'm not, as long as people aren't being annoying and just leaving like trains of cars on track, like I can have fun. I'll find some challenge, but you like to have like a competition relative to others, I feel like more than I do.
Yes, definitely. But I
You
know what
you like to compete against a group of people.
yes. I wanna see where I stack. If somebody's beating me, I wanna understand why. Like, that's my main because I think, when you're competing against stacked people, I think that's what's gonna create, an environment where where you're most likely to improve or most likely to, do like, surprise yourself with how well you did or something along those lines. I feel like those are the conditions where that's more likely to happen. I think the way that you isolate yourself from that is like a cheat code when it comes to competition because like the nerves don't get to you because you're literally just competing against yourself.
Oh, they can, but if they do, I'm flopping.
Yeah, okay.
If
If
how other people are doing starts to creep in, that's a bad thing for my mental state.
yeah.
I think that's why I'm a pretty solitary competitor with when it comes to like how I focus on things.
So
I'm trying to figure. Go
what
ahead.
well, I was gonna say, so I think that explains those HPDE like career people is that they're just that was their end goal. I think Jake kind of hit the nail on the head. Like just getting on a racetrack with their car was the end goal, and they're just happy that they're there.
Yeah, which is why I bring up, like, eventually, if you're doing motorsports for recreation or motorsports for competition, there's only so many motorsports events. We've already said it's a small crowd. So when people who are in their lane, completely happy with where they are in their motorsports for recreation, end up at the same events for people who are there for competition, that's where the oil and water starts to like bounce off each other. They're like magnets propelling each other away because one guy's like, dude, calm down. And the other guy's like, dude, get out of my way. Me, I'm saying get out of my way.
He's like, "Hey man, there's a straightaway like 4 corners from now. Like, what's the hurry?"
Yeah. Meanwhile, I saw 3 tenths go away on my thing and I'm like
Yeah.
fuming.
uh,
The other part was that's a great comment slash question, Duckies. The other part was autocross greater than road course. That's a hot take for me. I don't know if it's better than. For what purpose?
I mean, I'm always gonna prefer a
Pretty vague.
race over basically everything else.
I think so. But I mean, for learning, obviously, I don't know. They're just so different to me.
I think
I would hate to have to pick one or the other.
they're different tools for different jobs. I think like per dollar, I don't think you can become a better driver with anything else other than autocross. Like per dollar.
I agree with that.
Like really, if you look at like I know there's plenty of people who listen to this podcast that probably spend a lot of money in autocross, but you're doing an event every week. You think of all those like pathways that your brain's forming that comes to driving a car because all the repetition that you get, and you're driving the car at the limit like the whole 60-second run or whatever. Ideally, you're driving the car at the limit for the whole 60-second run on a racetrack. Yeah, you're out there for 20 minutes, but like you're at the limit for like 10 seconds each lap, like at most, right? Like, because most of the time you're just driving on straightaways.
Well, what I prefer to do is drive way over the limit for half the lap and under the limit for the other half, and it averages
Ooh,
out.
it evens out. That's how Tom's so fast. Damn, he just
Yep.
gave up his secrets.
But you have to be strategic with when you go flat out. That's what's really makes an
When
advanced
you go
driver.
flat out, nice. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. They're so different. I don't like the conversation about like which is better or what's. I obviously love both, but
yeah, I think it's just different disciplines. It's like
I think autocross makes better drivers more often. I would say that pretty confidently.
I think that's because of its barrier to entry and that you can do it more often with a budget that is more attainable. Like if you were going to the racetrack with immediate feedback every weekend, I think that would also make a great driver. But just the format of autocross, you get that immediate feedback. You can go to like an event every single weekend. That's going to make a better driver than somebody who doesn't have immediate feedback and goes to like an event every month or two.
Yeah.
No matter how much you drive in that one or that, in that one weekend, you could drive like 8 hours in that one weekend and be like, that's why I like racetracks because I get to drive more. It's like, yeah, but like how much of that driving like actually like went like made you critically think about the thing that you're actually doing?
Kyle Net in the chat said only go flat out on the straights and let no one pass to assert dominance.
That's how you win the HPD.
Yeah, funny. Do you want to pick one or do you want me to pick another one?
If you have one queued up, you can go for it. I was gonna pick a really
Sure.
long one.
Do you want to read a really long one?
Oh, I didn't think about
We have a
reading it.
really long one about driving from John Hunter.
Yeah, sure. That's the one. That's the really long one I was looking at. Should I read it?
You want to go for it?
I'm gonna go
If you
for
get
it.
to tap out, I'll tap in
I'll
because
yeah, I'll just put my hand up and
it might take
you'll
two of
just jump
us.
in. Yeah, yeah. All right, buckle in everyone. Hey Tom and DJ, longtime listener, one-time guest, first-time question asker. I wanted
Oh
to
hey.
ask you a question around performance driving and weight management in a car. Y'all know the string theory when it comes to the brake, steering, and throttle relationships. One of the things I've always taught as an instructor was when you're transitioning to the throttle in a corner, instead of having the string stay taut, you want to introduce a little slack before you add throttle. The reason I've always had this is I've noticed that the slight movement of the wheel to unwind allows the weight to slightly fall back on the hip instead of being completely even. By the way, this question was sent in August. We're killing it.
Sorry, John.
um, slightly fall back on the hip instead of being completely even between the two unloaded tires. It just allows you to be a little bit more aggressive a little earlier on throttle as you've already started the transition of the weight to the rear. This works obviously well for rear wheel drive cars, but also four wheel drive cars when you want to stop the rotation and accelerate out of a corner. And going back to the conversation about reference points, uh, a previous episode on the podcast, I feel like once your driving gets to the point where you're driving the does he say the fill or with fill? What does that mean?
It's the name Phil, where you're driving with Phil and understand the limited brick proportion of your reference. What?
What is he talking about? You lost
I
me,
don't know. If
John.
your driving gets to the point where you're driving with, it's got to
Feel?
be an autocorrect. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Feel.
Maybe.
Yeah, Raul got it in the chat. Thanks. Yeah, the chat's jumping in and reading these for us. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. So I think he was probably like doing it voice to text. I'm surprised voice to text was this good. So
Yeah.
all right, I'll jump back in. I'm tagging back in, Tom. Ding ding ding. I didn't hear no bell. Uh you're driving with feel and understanding the limited grip proportion brick. Oh, it's falling apart, guys. Your references that are, oh my god. Okay, I think it fell apart. I think
Well, okay, so the sentence is written. I feel like once you're driving gets to the point where you're driving with feel and understanding the limited brick proportion of your references that are visual in your breakdown. Once you've started your breaking point, it all goes by feel and sensory from that point. So I assume that he's talking about you've gotten to the point where you're maximizing the braking on like entry and you're driving with the feel past that point, right?
maybe there's it said
Okay, keep
fill and
going.
then brick. What's the brick portion?
I don't know.
Yeah, see that's what I'm saying. There's too many typos at this point. But I think we
Yeah.
can we can have a conversation about like the opening the wheel preemptively thing.
Well, yeah, no, I'll finish it out. The last sentence. You know when you want the car, you know where you want the car visually, but once you begun the corner with your braking, any variance to what you need, what you know you want on a visual level is merely feedback for the next time you come through that corner, along with understanding where the edge of the grip is. I dare say more about the grip level at that point and riding that versus whether your car is exactly where you want to be at apex. So driving to the grip instead of driving to the placement is how he finished that thought. I get what he's saying, but I feel like we should describe the string theory first in case someone's not familiar.
Yeah. So the string theory thing, which is not actual like scientific physics string theory. It's just something that's talked about in like every HPDE group or driving school or literally anything is that
Yeah,
there's a string tied to the bottom of the steering wheel. So when your hands are at 9 and 3 and the wheel's going straight, the string is has the most amount of throw on it. So you can floor it all the way or you can brake all the way. And there's a string, the string is tied to the throttle or the brake. And then as you feed and wheel, you have to release on one of the pedals so you can actually feed in the wheel. Right? We're just
right.
trying to maximize contact patch. To me, this is the string theory thing is a really complicated way to explain like weight management on a car. I've always
I,
hated the string theory thing.
I've come to agree with you. So, I mean, the string theory is basically to teach somebody that in order to turn, they have to lift, and in order to go to a pedal, they have to straighten out the wheel. That's all it's trying to do is like visualize like why you have to let go one go for the other. But it kind of it kind of disregards the reason for it.
Yeah.
It's just for people who need that black and white definition for like you can't do these two things together, and here's why. So to John's point, then if you're visualizing it that way, in order to start to accelerate, you have to open the wheel up or straighten the wheel out to preemptively or predict that the car is going to rotate around you. And that's what that grip going to the outside rear tire or on the hip, what he referred to, feels like. But I like the excuse me, I like the idea of driving to the weight and the your shape of the corner way better. But I do think that it would help somebody at some point to be like, why isn't this working? Oh, well, you have to have the wheel straight if you're doing a full throttle or full brake. You know, like those little black and white things help people have small epiphanies. So it has its place. I just don't agree with it being like a fundamental.
I mean, everybody's brains work differently. In my experience, having people focus on the weight rather than the actual inputs that's happening in the car, um, is way more effective. So to
Yeah.
me, the better way to explain, like the opening the wheel to, uh, to like allow, the weight to slack or the have slack in the string or whatever. I feel like that's a too complicated way to explain it. I feel like the better way to explain it is preemptively point the front tires where you're going to put the rear tires with the throttle. So you have already turned.
That didn't work for me.
It didn't
Just
work for
keep
you?
talking. Go ahead.
Okay. You have already pointed the wheel where the rear tires are gonna go. So when you're getting in throttle, the rear tires are gonna go somewhere, right? You're putting them there with the throttle. And then you already point the car preemptively, like, before, so you're not chasing the car over there. You put the front tires already heading into that trajectory, and then the rear tires are just, like, just behind it, and you'll put more power into the
Like,
ground.
okay. Like a very, very mild preemptive counter steer. But you're not
Exactly.
countering, you're just opening the wheel. You're taking that what you know will turn into rotation. You're getting ahead of it slightly. Is
Like, you're feeding in the
that what you're trying to
throttle.
say?
Yeah, you're feeding in the throttle, like, to me, like, you're leaving a corner. You're placing the outside rear tire. This is a rear-wheel drive car. You're placing the outside rear tire to the edge of the racetrack with the throttle. You're
Yeah.
controlling where the front wheels are with the steering wheel, right? So if your aim, which it should be on most corners, is to use that last inch of the racetrack, then instead of like applying the throttle and then just reacting with the steering wheel to follow like where the rear tires go, just have the front tires go there like already because you're putting the rear tires there with the throttle, right? Are you following along now?
Yep, I'm with you. I'm
Okay.
agreeing.
So to me, that's the better way to visualize this like preemptive open the wheel thing is it then like because I don't really know what a preemptive open the wheel does with the weight.
I mean, it effectively catches it so that the car can it doesn't over rotate when it falls to the outside rear tire.
It
But I
it
had a moment with
it
I was
doesn't
coaching
shock.
somebody and
Yeah, it doesn't shock that outside rear tire as the weight gets back there. You like let it you slow down how quickly the weight can get to that right rear tire or the outside rear tire.
exactly.
Yeah.
I had a moment with somebody coaching once, and they were struggling with. There was a crest in a pretty slow corner. It was AMP turn 4. So if you've been there, it's basically after the little chicane, then you kind of go uphill into this carousel where you're slowing down up the hill, you're getting on throttle before the crest, and then right after the crest, the rear-wheel drive cars would slide. And the driver was struggling with that, and we were talking about like he had never thought to predict that that was going to happen every time. He just thought like every time it happens, I have to catch it. So we came up with oh shoot, I had a good phrase for it. It was something in modulate. It wasn't predict and modulate because it rhymed, but it was basically like predict that it's gonna happen and then modulate it when it gets there,
Yeah.
rather than like react to it.
Yeah. So like you when you're
Anticipate and modulate. Thank you, Doug. Yes, live chat coming through again.
the live chat's
Anticipate and modulate.
the live chat's carrying the show today, let's be honest, Tom.
Yeah, I love it. Talking about community. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a good number of people who drive, especially on racetracks, who maybe understand performance driving, autocrossers, whatever. They don't fully understand elevation and weight transfer because they haven't thought about driving in those terms, like what we like to talk about. So that creates this inability to correlate like this car is going to go light and do this every lap, or this car is going to go into compression and do this every single time. Uh, and if someone points it out to that kind of driver, they're like, oh. oh, yeah, it's gonna happen every single time. I can just predict it. And then as soon as I predict it, I just have to get it mostly right.
And then and then with that prediction, you can maybe even use it to like your advantage. You're like, "Oh, I get light at the end of the crest," or at the like for example, the hill at Lime Rock, you get light at the top of that hill, so you have to get most of your cornering done in the first part of the hill because you get a huge compression. So with Lime Rock, you can literally turn in. It looks like you're going to hit the wall. The hill will catch you. You get a huge compression. You can even add in a little bit more wheel because you're so loaded in, and then you unwrap the wheel like as you get toward the top of the hill, you get light, you float over it, you're good. It's so predictable. You get that predictable float, you get that predictable compression that now you can use those predictabilities to influence the overall shape of the corner.
Yep. I think that's kind of what John was getting at cryptically about like when you're driving by feel. I think his driving by feel was he was implying that like you're driving the weight of the car to the exit of the corner, but got a little auto corrected in there. I like that. I don't know if there's any. Hmm. I hope that our one of our influences for long term is that we pull the like base level of driving curriculum slightly more towards the like weight transfer and momentum style of thought process rather than like rigid reference points and driving line and the black and white stuff
The
that I think people jump to first.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably already done it like 3 times on this podcast, but the line, like, "Oh, I gotta learn the line." I hate that so much. I hate that with like a passion. I think that's like the wrong way to start people on their driving journey. I think you teach them how they can influence the shapes of corners and basically like you're trying to open up the corner as much as possible unless it's like a really slow one then you might cut distance or whatever, but like for the most part you're trying to carry the weight on the nose on the entry, and then you're trying to use the throttle to push the car to the edge of the racetrack. That's the line, no matter what the corner is. You don't have to learn like, oh, I want to be over here, I want to be over there, or whatever. I Oh, Jake Martin says Edo starts by showing lines first. I'll talk to Edo. Man, Jake just threw Edo under the bus.
That was fucking brutal.
Uh, I don't think he does, by the way.
I think that could even be made up, but it's funny as shit. Oh man.
It is funny. Is Edo in the audience? I haven't looked. Oh, he's not. He's
He is
not.
not.
Oh, he can't even defend himself.
I do think it depends on where the person's at because teaching someone where to drive. Okay, the line doesn't exist, but there is an ideal line for every car around every track.
There
And that
is.
that line is nuanced based on the weight transfer and the momentum behind the car. But in general, giving somebody like a rough aim for this is still good. It's just not the fundamental everyone thinks it is.
I I
It's
think
like one of the things that you need to understand.
I think like the process of learning though, and like learning a new thing is you don't know what is just to get you started and what should stick around forever. And how are you supposed to parse those
Yeah.
things out, right?
Man, I worked this track day, those Dodge events I used to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? One of the programs we had was the SRT track experience. And we would go to all these different tracks like Watkins Glen and Laguna Seca and Thunder Hill and whatever. And they had a system where we had to lead follow the cars. Uh, so we're driving the lead car, and there are two or three follow cars behind us with the customers in them. And the way they like defined the sandbox for the day was like when you pass a red cone, you brake. When you pass a orange cone, you turn in and you connect the dot to the orange cone at the apex, and then you accelerate to the green cone at the exit. And we're playing connect the dots, connect the dots. Excuse me. But they would put out braking markers. First of all, to take it easy on the brakes. Second of all, to make it safer. And at the beginning of the day, they would say, this is the part that I hated. They would say at the beginning of the day, we're not going to change our brake points all day. We're only changing brake pressure. So we would go out for the very first lap at like 50 miles an hour. We'd be coming into turn 2 at Laguna Seca, and we'd brake at the freaking 800,000 at 50 miles an hour. And we would have to show them the brake lights through the entire brake zone to show them they should be braking
Yeah.
when they like what are we doing? And then they would have to play the connect the dots. So they're driving around these cars with no momentum at all. And then we're like slowly adding momentum to the day. And maybe by the end of the day, it's like a reasonable breaking point for like probably should have been their first break point. But teaching that like you always break in the same place, you just break harder if you're going faster made me so
No.
upset. Like that's
Uh,
so
that
crazy to me that
that is
because then
crazy.
people think that's what it is. And that's
No.
literally like they come drive on a racetrack for the day because they bought an SRT and then they get to go out thinking that's how race car drivers think. Oh, it was so sad, but it didn't ruin their experience. They didn't know any better.
They didn't know any better, but, like,
Just grated to me.
but there was people that walked away from that thinking that's what you should do because all these pros told me to do that.
Or they get to the like they get to the brake marker that's like completely synthetic and they breathe onto the brakes just ever so slightly. Yeah, it just it didn't create what it should have, but it was obviously safe and fine, so whatever.
The tricky part with this is that everyone learns different, right? So, like, maybe that really clicks for
It's true.
somebody. They're like, "Oh, as I amp up aggression and everything else, I amp up aggression on the brake pedal," and then it all, like,
Yeah.
comes together and stuff like that. Um, but, uh, honestly, I think the best way, like, anytime, I've been in the car with, like, a novice, one of the first things we do, well, first I make sure that they, like, have brakes and brake fluid, is we test the maximum braking of the car and be like, "Cool, that's how much grip your car has." Right?
Yeah.
Like, cool, that's the limit. Like, that's the easiest way to get to the limit of your car. You don't have to be good in any other regard, but when we're on the brakes, I wanna be at the limit.
Yep. That's what I would start with too. Here
Raul
we go.
says,
User Brain's curriculum. There's step 1.
yeah, so Raul, says, "Not teaching to the line to a complete newbie would be alarming." And then you agreed with it, Tom.
I do, because imagine going to track night. Okay, this is a bad example because we didn't teach the line at track night. Uh-oh.
I don't think it
I do
matters.
believe that I believe that giving somebody the idea that they should be like straightening things out is maybe a better way of like teaching the line than trying to teach the line and then start teaching the weight transfer and the maximization of the inputs in the car with maximum brake pressure and transferring into the weight into the corner and around the edge of the car and all that stuff.
So what are we worried about? Like, somebody driving on the left side of the racetrack on the entry to a left-hand corner?
No, I don't think it's dodging a problem. I think it's just like accelerating the ease of understanding what to do. Like having a line to follow is the simplest version of driving on a racetrack. That's why every video game has a driving line and every school teaches you the line. But that's why I think it's become overemphasized.
But what if we just said, like, the largest radius for a corner that doesn't go into another corner is ideal?
Say that again?
The largest radius, the more the corner is opened
Oh,
up,
yeah, yeah.
right? Just because that would work for every corner. And then if it goes into another corner, the largest radius for the last corner in a series of corners is ideal.
Okay, so Raoul says, "Now explain it so an idiot can understand."
No math
You
terms.
use the term radius. They can't understand math terms.
Look, how are you at a racetrack if you don't know what the term radius means? Like, I feel like and maybe this is me being naive, but I feel like we should just treat each other like we're a little bit better off than that. Like we don't have to like spoon feed it at the detriment of everyone because one person might not get it, right? Like you have a whole classroom of newbies and we're gonna send them in kind of the remotely like wrong direction with how we explain this because one person might not understand the word radius. Nah, I'm not following that school of thought.
I would love to follow you with this, but I think we have to accept that the world's a little more coddling than that. And I have a funny point about this
Okay,
because I
let's
was
hear it.
coaching somebody once. It was like a hired it wasn't a track day like instructor thing. It was like a hired coaching thing. I was at NCM and something I said made this person believe that they should get to turn 17, which if you're not familiar with NCM is a like 50-degree radius right-hander, fast corner. They thought that they should come out of this right-hander on the right side of the track, drive down the right side of the track, and then enter the next corner at turn 18 on the right side of the track, which is another right-hand corner. So they came out of turn 17 against all instincts, drove to the right side of the track, drove down the wrong side of the track the entire way, and then turned in on the inside of the track for the next corner. Person that has been driving on track, person that trusted me with their life, and then they went out and something I said made them think to do that. And when I came back and I watched the video, I'm like, or they came back, watched the video, I'm like, how did why didn't you question me on that? Like, where, how did we get there?
How did we get
Like
there?
they
You're
did the
like,
whole session. And I wish I could remember what I said, but whatever it was just a simple miscommunication of whatever I was trying to get them
I
to
wish you
do,
yeah, I wish you
made
remember
them
what you said because that would
break
actually
all
probably
fundamentals.
yeah, that would probably actually be pretty funny to be like, "Oh, okay, I guess I could see how that would, like, come out of that," but
My
okay,
point was to turn in early for turn 18 because it's a corner that like you turn in super early, you drive at the entry of it. And something about me describing it that way made them think they needed to be on the right side of the track when they got to it, not turn in early for it.
so
Whatever.
what if that driver that you were working with went to an HPDE thing and or something and they took what you said and then some other thing that they heard long time ago that was a thing they should learn just for now but not forever, but it stuck around forever because that's how the human brain works and that's how it got misconstrued. Instead of just focusing on like fundamentals and like low hanging fruit for like the novices.
Wait, I missed the complete thought in that sentence.
I'm saying, what if like that was some like string theory thing or always break in a straight line or like cut distance or whatever. Just some like rule that is maybe works great for novices but like lingers on as they like progress in their driving.
You're kind of saying like as soon as you graduate to intermediate, they should tell you this is the time that you no longer care about the line.
What I'm saying is they shouldn't even teach the line in the first place.
I know you are, but you're saying maybe in a different in a meet in the middle world, you would teach the line for the novices, but you would tell them as you learn, this is temporary knowledge. Is that what you're trying to get at? Like this is something that we're going to give you for a little bit instead of a long time, but
I
then you have to forget it.
but I don't think the brain works like that. That's why I don't think you teach these like how often like, do people struggle with like quote unquote trail breaking? And I heard this during the sim race too. Oh, I trail braked too long, so like I spun or something like that. And it's like that's not how that works. Like you just manage the weight improperly. But like you have these like diagrams and stuff, and like it's a book on my bookshelf, like right over there. It's like Speed Secrets from Ross Bentley, and it shows like like what trail braking is, right? And it's like we're on the brakes in a straight line and then we start feeding in the steering wheel and letting off the brake and like that is all technically true. But what if we explained it with weight instead? Like that would make way more sense for somebody who's trying to understand this concept. And like why are we doing that thing, right? We're blending those inputs to manage the weight. Why don't we just say that we're managing the weight?
I tend to agree with you, but I do wonder if we're past the point of being able to comprehend that complex thought that a newer driver would need to have simplified. Like we're explaining algebra while we understand calculus to someone who can barely do addition. That's what I wonder, you know?
Yeah, I that's a fair point. And knowing that other so Danny Corliss says, I do think that's too high level for newbies. You know what? We need a newbie in this chat right now. Somebody get their friend in here.
Yeah. Someone call their mom.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna
I think that it can be massively improved though with the way things are taught. I just think that that kind of thing is so poorly taught because of um I would say a combination of like the instructor pool that people meet when they're newer combined with the goals of somebody who's doing motorsports for recreation. Like what we're describing is so specific to going fast.
yeah. Yeah, true.
You have to have someone who's even interested in doing that to like get them.
And that's so motorsports is already like its very own small community. And then there's a very other small part of that that like is actually interested in like going as fast as they can.
Right. So they'll think of like the difference in thinking a turn in point is when I turn the wheel versus when the weight actually hits like the outside front tire. Like nuances like that, I don't think you can. I'm trying to like reverse engineer describing how to drive a car with its weight and momentum around a lap. And I don't see how you would even start without talking about the line or there's some level of fundamentals that are common now that is still valuable
You're
for
trying to
sure.
find like the fun like the yeah, like the fundamental, like where's the like foundational level, like where does it even start, right? Like that's what you're thinking?
Yeah,
I
which
think
I agree that, like, starting with that braking ability is, like, kind of where it starts for me. But what novice gets in the car with their instructor and the instructor looks over and says, "Alright, the first thing we're gonna do is lock up your brakes." Like, that's what we're trying to do, and then once we learn how to do that, we'll get to the next thing. Like that, I guess in a reality that could work, I don't know.
Um, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. But I do think about this all the time, Tom, because if we could figure out like where does the foundation start and then work from like foundation up to create like the fastest driver ever and like all the things that need to align and what is the like what should be taught first and how does that feed into the next thing? I think about this stuff all the time cuz like if it that could be figured out and explained in like a really like good like building block way, we could create so many fast drivers just with understanding that.
You know what you should do?
Hmm.
You should just ask ChatGPT what it thinks, and then it'll spit out the answer for you, and then we all have the answer.
Do I look this
No,
up
don't do it right now.
right now?
No, 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 no.
I feel like
That
I
was a
have
joke.
to. I feel like I have to ask ChatGPT, where does hold on, what am I asking here? Am I asking,
What's the best way to make the fastest driver ever? I don't know.
what
See, this is the thing, you can't just, like, do that, I don't know.
I'm gonna say, where does, uh, driving technique I don't know how to spell technique, it will figure it out. Um, oh my god, I didn't even just get close enough for it to figure it out. Guys, somebody tell me how to spell technique. This is bad. Tech, tech.
Technique.
No, there's a Q in there somewhere. Oh god, there was a CH. I'm such a bad speller. Uh, technique. Where does
Wait,
driving
wait, wait,
technique
wait, wait,
start?
wait. Can I need you to spell what you spelled now. If you miss the Q and the CH.
Nope, we're not going there. All right. Oh my god, it's spitting out an essay.
I was gonna say, you're just gonna have to read a lot more, and I feel like we've already been going for a while.
Dude, it's so long. I'm gonna have to read this. This might be legit. Okay. I'll
How long have we been going? Do you have to read the whole thing
no,
on there?
no. I'm not reading it. I'm gonna post it in Discord. It's
Okay, okay.
yeah. It's you know what? I think we just solved the mystery. It's on my page right now. If you want to see it, you got to jump into the Discord.
Subscribers only.
I'm gonna throw it in the no. I'm not gonna do that. That's mean. I'm gonna throw it in like the general chat. Uh, all right, Tom. I'm ready
How
to.
long have we been going?
It's an hour and 27.
Oh, perfect. Good timing. What are you doing this weekend?
I'm doing a big official, the first official iRacing race of the year. It's called the Roar Before the 24. It's a real event, but in iRacing, it's also it's like the first event of the year, like a special event. So I'll be driving a GT4 Cayman, I think. I still have to do some more testing to figure out what I think the optimal car will be. Um, but it's a big streamed official iRacing race. I don't know if I'll make it in a top split with my 7,400 I rating. I might need to actually be higher than that to make it in the top split. But if I am in the top split, you'll see me on the broadcast. If you tune in, it'll be on iRacing's all official everything.
If you make it, link it for us.
I don't know if I'll make
That'd be
it
cool.
until like literally the race is starting. So
Oh, well, if you don't make it or if you do, you should get on here and stream it for us to come watch.
okay,
That's Saturday?
yeah,
Cool. My parents are coming to visit this weekend, but that's about it.
that'll be
And
fun.
then I might have to figure out how to get this set of courses stuff up because sounds like some people are interested.
Yeah. Well,
I'd love to play with my friends.
yeah, maybe what Sunday we do some Assetto Corsa in. Oh, Sunday I'm doing a another endurance race on iRacing.
Yeah,
The
my parents will be here some other week.
yeah, uh, if you want into that race, I forget who was hosting it. It was one of the Lizard Brains listeners mentioned it in the Discord, and I think a lot of us are going to be doing that. So if you want to join in on that, come hang out.
Yeah, honestly, well, I really had a good time with this conversation today, especially that second part about driving. But if all of this sim racing conversation has you like you're perked up and it didn't drive you crazy, if you join the Discord, there's literally constant conversation about sim racing for stuff to join and what to do and all this stuff. So pretty good resource with a good community.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right, Tom, you wanna take us out?
Yeah, I don't really know what to say other
Oh,
than I
hold on.
guess, I learned a fact this week that everybody quits their resolutions the second Friday after the new year. So don't quit. I love your hair and I hope you win. Oh, it's not even close.
I
Jesus,
I
I
told you to
win.
hold on.